here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of the musician, artist, and lots more. It's the one and only Jon Klein, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry, and all that other groovy stuff. Yes, he began Specimen, the goth band from the late 70s. Also, the Batcave, plus was with Siouxsie and the Banshees for 3 albums. Also toured with Sinead O'Connor and has lots of other musical adventures along the way, which you're going to find out about in this fascinating interview. So, after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Jon, it's over to you.
God, I don't know. I mean, I'm a 1960 baby, so it was weird. Different places from school and from church. I was brought up a Mormon, so I met Wayne Hussey when I was quite young from the mission.
Right.
We were actually in a Mormon scout group together. and he's like 2 or 3 years older than me, so he was kind of more ahead. He was kind of, I guess he was kind of more aware of the hard rock stuff at the time. I remember he was the first person that told me about bands like Free.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I wouldn't have been aware of, I suppose. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'd heard All Right Now or something, but just not really so aware of. Really, I think, though, glam rock, for me, I just love the visceral stuff, guitar riffs.
Yes, well, it was very appealing, and lyrically, it was very easy to sort of catch on to. And also during that period, I do remember hearing Alice Cooper's "School's Out," and that was one of those tracks that, you know, I could tell that parents weren't happy about, as well as seeing these long-haired men on top of the pops as well, and you know, and even though they looked very blokey, I still remember people going, "You can't tell if they're a man or woman anymore." And I thought, actually, they have very broad shoulders, haven't they? So I think,
yeah. Well, I was actually on a scout camp. I do believe in Torquay the year that was charting with Wayne. So, and I was a bit, you know, I didn't really understand that record. What's this record about school, you know? And I didn't really understand the genre of it straight away, because that was a bit catchy and a bit rocky, but it wasn't a T-Rex record, was it? You know?
No.
I guess because Alice Cooper drew more, well, definitely more from the Doors and stuff like that, more pre-punk in a way.
Yes, and I do remember him sort of getting his sword out, not his an actual sword, and sort of getting a member of the audience and sort of becoming quite sort of quite. You wouldn't have got away with it now with health and safety, would you? But there was there was a theatrical quality, and I think, you know, bands like Sweet with Blockbuster always seemed very rebellious, and also the Osmonds' Crazy Horses. I thought, God, that rocked as well.
That's an amazing track. I mean, that's another big one. Because being a Mormon kid at that time, the Osmonds hitting was a huge, like, cultural shift. You know, I had to go to church on Sunday, and all of a sudden there was 100 girls there.
Yeah,
they weren't interested in us. They wanted the American proselyting missionaries. But but I've been back and listening to that track actually a while, for quite a while now. It's brilliant. It's really well played and written, and it's a real rocker. The story I heard was, though, that the horse's sound is a mini moog through a Marshall stack.
Right, nice. We replicated that with a wooden pencil across the chairs in school, which had those grooves. So it kind of, I don't know. That was our very basic attempt of trying to replicate that song. Actually,
that's very DIY. That's good.
Yes. So what was it? I mean, I was because often one's parents and older brothers or sisters or cousins have a big influence. So what were your parents like then? Were they obviously quite different to quite a few parents?
Yeah. Well, my father was a police inspector.
Right.
So that kind of, and just the whole Mormon connection. So, but it was curious through that church scene, kids were into music, but then when I chose what I liked, it didn't go down well. Generally.
No.
You know.
So I'm sort of, my poor little brain is playing catch up here with, because suddenly, yes, trying to remember what do Mormons really stand for, by the way? I mean, it was Church of England and the Methodist Chapel for me.
Yeah, well, the Mormons in the early 70s were the first, I do believe they were the fastest growing religion on the planet. So they were the lot that started on the East Coast of America and ended up walking to Utah, where they were given Salt Lake City, but they had a bad reputation for their polygamous ways. There's kind of a, which they don't do now. That they stopped that in about the 1890s or something. But there it was kind of it was a bit of a cult religion, synods, you know. So it was definitely kind of a strange place.
Yes.
But they had a lot of money. Everyone pays 10% gross tithe that goes to Salt Lake City, which then came back as funds to build churches. So when I was a toddler, I was on Mormon building sites. Yeah. And in these new churches that they're building, they would have like a chapel, and then they'd have a cultural hall that had like 5-a-side football pitch, basketball pitch, and then a full stage with proper lighting system and sound system. So that was where I first started doing music.
Yes, well, absolutely. How did your parents become Mormons then? Because that was quite unusual, wasn't it?
Yeah, early 60s, they would was a big recruiting drive. Mormons send all their 18, 19-year-old kids out on 2-year proselyting missionaries.
Right, and
so you have these like two handsome, like, you know, Hollywood actor-looking guys, you know, turning up with their suits and their name badges. You know, and I think my mum had a hard time. I think she was just kind of, her parents had been Roman Catholic, but she'd lost her mum, so you know, she was really open to something new and just kind of went for it, really. And it was kind of curious at that time, though. You know, 1960, Americana was really cool, wasn't it? You know,
yes, absolutely.
World War kind of too. So yeah.
Yes, I know, and we were very all envious with the rather lovely teeth that the Osmonds had, which, you know, being from England, dentistry was bad. That's why everybody my age is now having to pay fortune to try and get their teeth sorted.
Yeah, that's why we loved David Bowie at the time.
We did. He was our role model. We said, "Don't stick with it, David." And then one day he went, he also went and got it sorted. So so what was the first single you bought and the first kind of album? What was that? Because you mentioned, I think it was Free, didn't you? And probably there was.
I know that, but I mean, I never actually really got into Free. So I think maybe Faces, Stay With Me.
Yes,
might have been the first 7-inch, and maybe the first album. I can't remember which ones, because my brother's a couple of years older than me, and he'd bought stuff. I don't know. He was more into like 10cc or Slade Alive. I think All the Young Dudes, Motley Hoople might have been the first vinyl that I actually coughed up for.
Yes, and when did you? And because when was your first instrument then? When did you? Was it through the Mormon church that you started playing music?
Yeah. Well, they used to do musical production, so we performed. But then I saw some of the kids, like from one of the other branches, coming to our place in Bristol with a band, and I just saw these like red and white electric guitars, and then just. I was just like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. I want to make a racket. I want a cute guitar that looks like that, and I want to make a noise. But I already knew, I really loved riffs. I mean, I really got it when my brother was playing me Slade stuff. Some of the riffing in their tracks was really what got me. You know, because he was, you know, well, maybe, I can't remember who was playing me Status Quo at the time, but just kind of catchy riff things.
Well,
I think that was the first kind of bug that I got. Obviously, the minute I started playing, then it changed. Then, yeah.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And you were, because I was actually a bit too, I felt, and I came from the countryside, a bit too young for punk. It never kind of crept into the East Anglian landscape. So did punk start to sort of appeal to you? Because you would have been...
Yeah, well, that would have been a year or two later. So first of all, I mean, I would have been on a radiogram, listening to stuff and tuning in and finding stuff. I don't know, like Led Zeppelin or whatever. But then, yeah, as punk, I do remember Buzzcocks. I really loved, actually. Yeah, they were that kind of really catchy, annoying kind of side of punk. I mean, I can still remember the first time I ever heard the Banshees. Well, I don't know if that was Peel or something.
Yes.
I guess that would have been that first Peel session, wouldn't it? That was really interesting, because I thought, wow, she kind of sounds like a weird sort of female Dalek with this really angular sounding band. It's probably their metal postcard demo that they did on the Peel session.
Yes. Well, I do remember, I think it was probably a few years later, hearing something like Happy House. Was it Happy House?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was, a bit like Ever Fallen in Love with Somebody. That was just an instantly exciting song, isn't it? It's up there with it's got everything. A bit like Dancing Queen by ABBA, let's face it.
Oh, they were really subversively pop in a way, those tracks. I mean, I guess some of the earlier ones that maybe I heard from the Buzzcocks were Noise a Noise. I'd love tracks like that, because they were just like a bit naughty, a bit kind of like, poking a finger.
Yes. So when you got to 16, which would have been 1976, God, I'm doing the maths here, did you leave school at that stage, or did you?
No, my father wouldn't let me. I really wanted to. I wanted to go and get an apprenticeship and buy a motor scooter.
Yes,
or a motorbike, But no, I had to stay on at school, which was quite interesting, because the school I was at in Bristol, in the common room there was some really switched on kids, like the kids in the Cortinas and a couple of guys from the pop group were around.
Right.
So what was getting played at school got really interesting music-wise.
Yes. So when did the Europeans form? Was that your first band that you were in?
It wasn't the first band that I was in. It was the first band that I was in that cut a single, though, that did, that made vinyl. So that would have been probably 78, the year I left school. Yeah. I mean, I had my own bands at school, but I think I was just down in a rehearsal room one night, and the guy that was starting that kind of spotted me playing and just said, "Do you want to?" Yeah.
And how long were you in that band for?
I can't remember how long that lasted, because we made one self-funded single, which Peel really liked. Actually, played it a lot, but then the band got offered a deal with Rapture Records, which was the Heath brothers, the sons of the band leader, Ted Heath. And they had, who were they? The Corgis were on them, which was the two guys from Stackridge. And so one of them, so we re-recorded our single for them, and one of those guys produced it. But then it didn't last very long, because I think the guy that produced it talked our singer into ditching the band, grabbing all the money and moving in with him, and then giving him some money to co-write. So.
Right, my God! Already, it's kind of got a
maybe I got that wrong, but I don't. That's not far from the truth.
Yes. So once that band, so then did you do A levels at sort of for that sixth form period?
But yeah, I didn't do very well at them. Yeah.
Right, but
I got an art A level and failed an economics A level.
Oh, interesting combination.
It was kind of a bit pointless, really, in a way, doing kind of doing the sixth form. My brain wasn't in it. It was just all about music, really, at that point.
Right, there you go. And then as the sort of the 70s progressed, where were you sort of heading for musically at this point? Was kind of music, by the way, the only thing that you were interested in?
Well, when the Europeans went wrong, I kind of went through a slightly dark period, and I was still playing, kind of jamming around Bristol, playing with loads of other kids. But I was living a bit fast and loose, and I kind of had an accident at a party one night, kind of. I broke my ankle, back, and jaw, so I ended up in hospital for a long time. So I flat my back for about 13 weeks. And it left me, I mean, I'm very lucky that I wasn't kind of paralysed from that. But it meant that I had to kind of rejig how, my life plan at that point, because I couldn't tie my shoelaces up and stuff. So I think, 6 months, I think it was about 6 months before I was kind of, starting to get out and about. So then I went back to art school and did a foundation course, which seemed to be going pretty well. But then during that year, I met Ollie Wisdom, who I started Specimen with.
Right.
And it was his brother and a guy lived over the road from me, and I was interviewing me for some fanzine, and then introduced me to Ollie, and it just immediately clicked. And Ollie wanted to do some music that summer, but I told him, look, I'm starting a degree course in Brighton in October, so don't make plans that are relying on me. So, oh, don't worry about it. I'll just move everyone else up to London, and then you'll just have to commute on the weekends. And that's kind of what we did. So we did a couple of self-promoted shows that year and a couple of things in Brighton. I worked on my degree course, but then took a sabbatical at the end of that year. Because at one of those shows in London, at the Embassy Club that we put on, we met Rusty Egan, who just started a publishing company. They had Soft Cell. They also had the lease on Trident Studios, where they'd made Ziggy, Aladdin Sane, all the Queen records. So it was just like, okay, I bet, better take a sabbatical and see what this is all about.
Yes, my God. So you were quickly on the scene at this stage.
Yeah, no, that was real quick. I mean, I've been down in Brighton working on this kind of performing art degree course where I've been learning how to print and printing posters, doing photography, so making pictures of the band, So I was never that far away from it, but it just kind of the energy that we had, like working with Ollie, was really good.
Yes.
Because Ollie had come from the first wave of punk. So he was very, very good at the autonomy DIY thing of just right. Let's arrange stuff. Let's do our own events. Can't get decent gigs, so we get what we want. And then when we got into Trident Studios, we were chatting to some promoters in there, and that's when the idea cropped up to, well, you seem to be able to organise stuff. Why don't you do a weekly? We didn't want to play Dingwalls or the opening band at the Lyceum because it was, you never really got, you never got allowed to do what you wanted to do on those shows, whereas we have our own club and our own environment that we can control.
And how quickly did you form or develop your sound for the band at this point? Did you start by sort of, covering other numbers and then sort of developing your own identity?
No, by the time we had Specimen, it was pretty much up and running, really. I mean, I'd always been that rocker kid, but I suppose, I don't know, when I was first living in a bedsit, this young kid used to come round and hassle me to teach him Banshees and Dead Kennedys songs.
Right.
So I was kind of like sussing out like the other stuff, but I was really I did love the kind of Mick Ronson Bowie period. I think that became more of a focal point from my mid-teenage. I just loved his production, and I thought his playing was really tasteful. There was just something kind of cooler about his playing.
Yes, and did you go through all the phases of Bowie, from Hunky Dory to like Ziggy to Young Americans to Station to Station? Did you enjoy and Low? Did you enjoy all those, or did you?
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I guess, well, the first shot would have been Diamond Dogs, where he's playing the guitars himself, and it was really pre-punk kind of stuff.
Yes.
That was,
There's a great song on side 2, We Are the Dead, which I just thought...
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
The lyrics are just stunning.
So haunting, isn't it?
I know, as a young person, one just always related to those songs. Yes, so that was good. And then did you start the club at this stage as well?
Yeah, so soon after we were in Trident, then it was great because me and Ollie, when I moved up from Brighton, we moved into a flat in Soho. So, yeah, we had the studio up the road. The marquee was still on Wardour Street. And we were living just round the corner on Old Compton Street. And the idea came up to, open a club. And Ollie found the Gargoyle Club at 69 Dean Street, which is where there've been, a lot of other quite famous clubs have been there. And that had actually been a club since about the 20s or something.
Yes, blimey. And did you, so that was you and Ollie were the main instigators of the club.
Mm.
And did Hugh Jones, he was your
Yes, he was originally a partner. So because he was part of a company called Final Solution with Kevin Millings that were running out of Trident, and they were doing I think a lot of gigs at Heaven. I know
right.
they were promoting. So yeah, no, he originally, I think he even invested originally with us. But yeah,
I get Hugh Jones and Hugh Johns mixed up. Which
Hugh
is
Jones. No, you're correct. Yes.
yes. Is he the one who went on to produce a lot of indie bands in the 80s? Or is
Don't
that
know. Don't know.
perhaps it's not? I
Maybe
just
not.
yeah, I just know there's it's quite an unusual name, isn't it? So I don't know many people like that. And how did you get on with the business side? Did you sort of quickly, was it you or Ollie or Hugh who were able to say, right, we need to get the accounts sorted, we need to have some sort of structure here, bookkeeping, and I mean,
Ollie was. I think Ollie had the numbers book. I mean, yeah, it was just a one nighter, so it was literally just a list of all our mates normally, and if whatever expenses, hire for the kind of Super 8 films that we were showing and the projectors, and yeah, and then just the bits and bobs of whatever. And we had friends that we were giving that were also doing bits of promo for us, making up stories for the gossip columns, and so yeah. I mean, I don't know how many people. I mean, within a year, there were probably a dozen people working for us.
yes, my God. And how big was it? And how many people would that hold on a regular night?
Well, they were well. The Batcave actually went across 5 venues in about between 1982 and 1985. Is it?
Right.
Before began. So the first one must have been a few hundred. I don't know, what is that, 300, maybe something. It's about 350, or because yeah, we lasted 6 months for the first one, and then they lost their license because there was something about fire escapes that the guy had to invest in. Otherwise, it was a health and safety issue. So then we moved into a club on Leicester Square that was bigger, but that had been a gay club. I think we were one of the first kind of like non-gay clubs like in there. But the problem then was that the police managed to penetrate the scene because they'd been trying to shut it down for ages.
Right.
And so we lost that license probably within another 6 months, and then moved to Carnaby Street to a club called Fubert's, which was probably the biggest one. I don't know. That would have been what, 400-500 maybe.
Yes, because that's quite a good run, isn't it? Most scenes don't last that long, but you managed to keep yours kind of going without too much problems. Because I've sort of, been in various things, and you kind of, at the time, you don't realise, but there's a honeymoon period, isn't there, where it's all going well, and then it
Yeah.
gets a bit messy, and then it kind of ends in tears.
Yeah. I mean, with ours, it was on the up through the first 3 clubs, but then by the time we hit the one on Fubert's Place in Carnaby Street, there were a lot more spectators. So we were getting lots more regional TV coverage. So all of a sudden, but the Banshees were still coming down there. Nick Cave and Mark Harmon was still coming down there. We had like Lords of the New Church and Christian Death play there. But it felt different. There were more people staring at people. If you know what I mean.
Right.
Whereas
Yes.
before that, it was just everyone, minding their own business. So that had kind of changed it a bit. In fact, I went. There's a clip on one of the TV shows. It's that a London Calling show that's got. Not that he's a tourist, because he was actually a proper dressed up goth. Morton Harkett, the singer in Aha, fully made up and dressed dancing at the Batcave.
Excellent. There you go. And what was the kind of the drug and drink of choice, for a goth scene? Was there a particular scene, I mean, with people like I don't know, heavy metal or Motorhead. It was all speed and Special Brew. Was what's because music at that time is so tribal, isn't it? You would have had the kind of, I don't know, the new romantic scene. You'd had psychobilly. There would have been, there was a new Paisley scene, wasn't there? There was it guy from Captain Doctor and the Medics? There was
That's
also.
right. Yeah.
There was a club that he was part of as well, wasn't there? Which I got a book somewhere here.
They were Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
That's thank
yeah,
God
well, because that was the final venue that we were at. So after Carnaby Street, we did about 6 months in the cellar bar behind Heaven, which was the really hardcore bar. It was a bit icky to hang out, when you put your hand against the wall and it was all sticky. It was a bit, and there were no walls on the toilet, so it was a bit unpleasant. But we did that for about 6 months, and then we moved to Gossips, which was in the same building as we started, but in the basement. So that's where Gad's Rock and Blues was on another night, and Alice in Wonderland. I think Alice was Monday nights. We were always Wednesday nights. So.
Right, my God, the scene. Did you feel very committed to the tribal quality of the music scene at that stage?
Well, I suppose, because you met more people. That's one thing about having the club. You just met more people that were doing bands, that were wanting to or doing stuff. Either out there playing and kind of releasing stuff, or starting and rehearsing. So I guess I knew a lot more musicians just because of the club.
Yes. And who was the paper or magazine that championed you, or the DJs? Who was your sort of ally at this stage?
Chris Needs.
Oh yes.
Who had done Zigzag? He had a magazine called Flexipop with Mark Manning, who then went on to be Zodiac Mindwarp. So they used to feature. We used to come down every week. So he used to kind of feature a lot of Batcave bands in that magazine. But we had kind of regulars. I don't know if did Mick Mercy used to come down, but Dave Durrell used to come down, and so. So I mean, there was coverage in NME particularly.
Yeah, and I suppose Melody Maker a bit.
Melody Maker too, yes.
And John Peel was, quite a champion of a lot of the bands, especially their early singles. I mean, he never used to hang about for too long. I think he got burnt when he got too close to T-Rex, didn't he, Mark Boland? So I think he'd bail out by the second album, just didn't want to repeat that mistake again. And did you have many German bands that sort of gravitated towards the scene?
Yeah, what was it? Ex-Mal Deutschland, did they come down? Malaria, I seem to remember.
Oh, Malaria, yeah.
And of course, Neubauten were around at the time. So because in Trident Studios, on the top floor, you had Steve-O, who had some bizarre offices up there.
Oh, God, yes.
So they used to bring, Mark Armand and I guess Matt Johnson would have probably been coming down.
Yeah,
but definitely Neubauten when they were in town, and Nick Cave. But then we found Test Department, which crossed over to their world, which was quite curious. Like a friend of ours found Test Department just walking down the street in New Cross one day. It was just a total random accident, but it was, yeah.
Excellent stuff. How did you know in 85 it was coming to an end by then?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in '83, we started doing really well in America. We'd done a quick guerrilla jaunt to New York at the beginning of the year, just to do a few shows in New York and Philly, but then landed a deal with Seymour Stein and Sire, so we had Warner's backing. So that it all looked like it was going to start taking off. We also did the Batcave album with London Records, so everything seemed to be kind of hitting a critical mass. But then things went wrong with our record label, and I think us being self-managed kind of some of our behaviour didn't go down well with record companies. They don't like being told what to do by 24-year-old kids.
No,
I can't kind of blame them in some respects, but hey, But and also, so I mean that created an immediate problem for us with Specimen. But then you could also, by '84, definitely the acid house was on the horizon. You could feel a major cultural shift approaching.
Yes, God, I can remember. Yeah, Acid House. That was a label called, was it Future with PH? You know, the not an F started. Yeah,
it was just a rave culture thing, and I guess it was just the tribal thing that you were talking about, just bumping up another level.
Well, it's interesting because I'd sort of, I was an indie pop kid. I have to come out of the closet and mention. But I felt like there was kind of 5 years, mainly the years of the Smiths from '83 to '87.
Right.
And then when they finished, it was almost like all those bands who were about to do their third album. It was almost like I wouldn't bother really, but, go ahead, because no one was, even the fans were getting, talking for myself, I suppose. You thought, they're not going to make their best album now, are they? They're not David Bowie. And then, '87 came along, and then, Ecstasy came, and that was another kind of the drug, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, I didn't answer your drug question, did I?
No.
Well, I guess it would have been white powders or one form or another. But actually, at Batcave, not crazy. It wasn't a crazy drug culture, and it wasn't like particularly a seedy culture. It was kind of more fun than, it's not like going to the Torture Garden or to, those kind of scenes. It was just more, yeah.
Did you attract initially quite an art student kind of crowd? Did you feel like that was quite people like dressing up who didn't want to go to the Blitz but thought let's go to something, let's embrace?
Well, it was after the Blitz. I think I was chatting to Severin a while ago, and we were trying to work out. He seemed to think it was maybe about a year and a half after the Blitz. So when we opened the Batcave, there really weren't any clubs like that in London. Really, there wasn't a Blitz or a Billy's or Bowie Nights or whatever that we could find. So people used to go and drink at the bar at the venue in Victoria, the Virgin gig. We didn't like. I suppose used to go to the Marquee occasionally, but Dingwalls, we didn't really like. We just thought that was a bit too rock and roll. But it had, so there weren't really places to go. There was definitely, it seemed that we opened it into a vacuum. There were more kind of jazz funk style clubs.
Cool. Oh, yes, because there was bands like Working Week and obviously Sade, and there was that. And was it Chris Sullivan with his band, or Chris O'Sullivan? I can't remember. Who did? God, I can't remember what the band was called.
All that stuff in Blue Rondo.
Oh, Blue. Yes, that's the one. Yes, yeah. London was quite hip and trendy, wasn't it? And the Face magazine was such a bible for young hipsters, wasn't it? On the
That's true. Yeah, and we did. We got a Face front cover in the first 6 months.
Yes,
which is funny because when they're photographing down there, you wouldn't believe how many rockabillys are down there. At the Batcave, it's not. It's not just people with long black spiky hair and long black coats. It was a bit like when punk started. It wasn't people with spiky hair, leather jackets, and jeans on at all. It was just the cult with no name again. This time maybe it was more the tribe with no name.
Yes. Did Lemmy ever come to the club?
Yeah, he was regular, always on a slot machine.
Well, it's funny because when I talked to a guy from Doctor and the Medics, he said for Alice in Wonderland that Lemmy would be there a lot. And
he was out quite a lot. Yeah. He was. I first started seeing him when I used to go to the Embassy Club in New Bond Street all night on the slot machine. So yeah, and the Batcave, the slot machine was in a really good place. So yeah, that was his place. But yeah, I mean, we had all sorts. I mean, so we had Lemmy. I've seen Ultravox guys and Banshees guys there early on, but people like Vince Clarke used to turn up as well.
Right.
And then Boy George was a regular, and it was great because they're all happy to queue up as well.
Nice.
Well, because the first venue had a little 4-person lift. So it meant that there was quite a long queue. But that queue became a social scene. So a lot of people that were coming in from provinces ended up knowing people before they got into the club.
So got into the lift.
Yeah. So the queue to the lift was actually another little social scene. I met a couple of people that said they got married to people that they met in that queue.
God, that's so nice. That's so nice. Yeah. And what was Seymour Stein like?
Oh, at first that was really good. I mean, yeah. Well, because I think he really liked our autonomy in the beginning, and he let me. I was doing all the Batcave artwork and stuff, and he just said, "Well, look, I'll just make what you like for a record cover and send me an invoice and I'll pay you." You know, it was kind of
that easy.
But that record had been licensed from London, so it wasn't the album that we wanted to put out, sadly. Tom Dolby had just been successful with a mini album, Tenant, in America. So the idea was that with no further record company investment, well, from our end in London Records, that, they'd be able to put an album out. Because we'd done 2 singles, but we'd had disagreements about the B-sides. So we had like an extra track there, and then we had a track off the Batcave album. So they pieced it all together, thought, oh, we've got enough for a mini album. So we were a bit gutted at the time because like we kept back our favourite tracks.
Yes, that was, because you started with, was it Returning and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and then Beauty of Poison, Telltale,
and Kiss Kiss, the B-side, was the one that did the distance way more.
Yes,
Returning, like, I think because it hit dance floors at alternative clubs in California.
Yeah, and did you say you went and played some shows in America?
Yeah, so I think that was spring '83. We did 2 nights at the Danceteria in New York, and then another one East Side Club in Philadelphia, and we did one at CBGB's. But that's where we got our deal. I mean, it was amazing. There was an English guy that was working in the Danceteria that was kind of really in with the boss, and so. Because we had really good little promo, and he said, "Oh, send me some promo." We made all these kind of bat handouts that had pop-up bats that kind of popped out when you opened them, and so they gave us a decent budget and some artists to actually build a Batcave into the basement of the Danceteria. So it was great. I went down there the first day we got there, and they said, "Look, here are these 2 artists. I can't remember the names, but you've got couple of $1,000 or whatever. We painted it all black. Do what you like with it." So we we built this kind of ghost train, kind of acid trip, like dungeon in there. So as you walk down, there's a hole in the wall, and we had a kind of 3D graveyard built with a UV active sky with a DJ in it, and opened the door and skeletons came up on levers and bats flew down and into a corridor that was 4 foot high in dry ice with glow-in-the-dark trees. Then we had themed rooms. We had a goth Jackson Pollock room, and then the kind of Dracula's castle room and stuff. So it was a real production job. I think that was one, and it created noise in New York. I think that's what got us the deal. The gig worked good. Gigs worked, so yeah.
Brilliant. I think, was it Anna Magnuson, a woman called that? Somebody who eventually went and was part of Bongwater. I think she was part of Danceteria, but I might be
right.
wrong.
Oh, no, it was a really good. And who was the other one? Ruth Polsky was a promoter out there who sadly got killed by a taxi cab outside the Slime Line years later. But she was a real big presence, apparently, of just importing the good bands out of the UK, and because you could put bands on the road without them being hugely successful at that point. It was an amazing time for music, really.
Well, I think a lot of the times you just knew that a venue or club just had bands, and that was quite cheap, wasn't it? $250 for 3 bands. You thought, wow, might as well take a punt. It's not going to be too bad. Yes. And what was CBGB's like to play? Did you have a good night there?
Oh, that was hilarious. Well, that's after the sound check. We went up a couple of blocks up the Bowery to our diner, and on our way back down to the gig, that's the first time we had a gun pulled out on us. This guy just barreled out of the doorway. He just looked like a real badass pimp, and he just pointed a gun at us one by one, and he was saying, "Which one, guys? Who's gonna get it?"
God, that is a bit freaky.
We were just like, "Okay, don't say anything. Just walk. Keep walking. Keep walking." And just like shat ourselves. Oh my God! And then went down to CBGB's and drunk rather a lot. So it was a pretty chaotic gig that night. But yeah, good. I mean, CBGB's was the shithole that it looks, but in a really great way.
Yes, God, that's quite something, isn't it? Really?
I thought it looked like the toilets at the Nashville.
Yes, my God. So then, obviously, yeah, so 85 is a bit of a big year for you, isn't it? With the band and the club finishing. And how do you sort of navigate from that kind of heady 5 years?
Well, what happened? Well, first of all, I mean, we saw it coming. Ollie's girlfriend was American at the time, so he thought that if he goes back to America, he wants to take the band back to the US, because we were doing much bigger shows in the US than the UK by that time. We'd done another couple of tours in America. So in LA, we were playing to a few thousand capacity theatres, as opposed to what maybe doing Heaven or something in London.
Yes.
But I didn't want to move. So he said, so we just agreed. He said, well, I'll take the band. You look after the club, for, until I think both of us kind of maybe spent less than a year on it, but so that it was an end that kind of an amicable end, really.
Well, yes.
But I mean, I could see the writing on the wall. I just didn't. Yeah, I wasn't interested in clubbing, and you can feel it when it's not. When you're on that slope, it was completely obvious. And I managed. There was one of the guys who was helping me run it had an idea for a club, and we managed to do like a handover, really. So the club got something happening on the Wednesday night, and literally just poof, that was it, really.
Yes. Well, it's.
I'd set myself up with a port studio and some bits and pieces, and just wanted to do more writing. I was doing some little bits of production and stuff. So I just wanted to. It had been a few years that I'd been, part of this machine, like crazily doing it. So I think I just wanted to find out what I wanted to do, really.
Yes, absolutely. So what do you do in 86 then? What's your sort of, is it still writing and doing bits of production work and just sort of looking for the next gig?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Just, working, collaborating, a few sessions on things with people I know. I'm not a session musician, but, people I knew that were kind of, that were doing stuff. Pretty much up until the point that a Banshees audition came along.
And you said, that's it. And did they just, at that stage, did you have to audition or?
Yes, twice.
My God, what was the auditions like?
Well, you knew what you had to learn. I mean, I had to submit a tape and stuff, and then it was just up at John Henry's. I think there were half a dozen people at the first audition. Poor kid that came out of the room before me, he looked really pissed off. Apparently, Sue just walked up to him and just pulled the jack plug out of his guitar and said, "Next."
Oh my God, that's horrendous. What did you have to play, by the way?
What was on the list? Oh God, I don't know. I know Israel was on the list.
Right.
For the first one. And I know for the second audition, Cities and Dust was maybe 4 songs or something, 4 or 5 I had to learn.
Who were you replacing in the band?
John Valentine Carruthers.
Yes. And when what's it like sort of entering a band that's already been very established and has also already got quite a lot of history? Did it feel quite comfortable to be part of the band?
Well, kind of stylistically, I really like their music, but I suppose psychologically it's quite tricky. They're established. They're half a dozen albums into their career.
Yes.
They're playing proper gigs. I mean, the first gig I did with the Banshees, Iggy Pop was the support band.
Right, that must have been quite intimidating.
Absolutely mind-blowing, really. I mean, the one thing that made it a bit easier in my instance, I suppose, was they decided to make it a 5-piece. So they got Martin McCarrick who had been playing with Mark Almond, to play keyboards and cello, and he had a sampler as well, which I know Sue wanted to. I think she wanted to get away from the Banshee sound, really. I think she really wanted to shake it up and do something else because, well, she'd done some Creature stuff in the meantime and probably felt that there was more creative freedom for her in that. So, and Carruthers was a great guitar player, but it was very much in the mould of John McGeoch.
Right. Good on John.
Everyone loved John. John McGeoch was amazing, but I think for Sue, she'd heard those riffs enough.
Yes, I did. Because I'd seen the band, but that was a tour when she'd obviously ripped a ligament or her knee, so she was.
Oh, right. Yeah.
She was sitting on a chair and swaying around with great enthusiasm. It was still mesmerising, but I guess that was before your time, wasn't it?
Yes. I can't remember what year that was. Would that have been John Carruthers on guitar? That wouldn't have been, because he came after the second Robert Smith innings. Yes,
that would have been a bit after that, yeah. I would imagine. Though I have to say, no one was watching him where they in reality.
Yes. Well, that's something you get used to very quick anyways.
Yes.
There's, walking into a band like that was, it was very interesting being in a band fronted by a woman, It was a very different kind of energy. So I really, I kind of like that aspect of it, actually.
Yes. And then obviously the band Peekaboo is a massive hit, isn't it? Or does really well. So suddenly there is a sort of a second wave of the band. Well, not second.
Well, there was, because I mean, they signed to Geffen for that year with Peepshow in America. So I think in America they sold a lot more records. I mean, I don't know if it's true. At the time I heard they sold more records in America of Peepshow than they had of their entire back catalogue ever.
Right.
And that's just the power of Geffen and MTV, Peekaboo, they won an MTV award for the video, the one with the top hats and the big noses and stuff.
Yes, it's got a lovely clean production, hasn't it, and an unusualness.
But Polydor hated it and didn't want her to release it. So when we were making that, Mike Hedges was producing that album, we must have probably spent almost half the album budget working on a huge cinematic, bombastic John Barry type production of Peekaboo. Whereas because the story about it starting with a loop of gum backwards.
No.
Right. So, when I first met Sue, she always had a Walkman on, and I was like, "Oh, well, so what are you listening to?" She said, "Oh, that's going to be a single one day." One day, someone had put a 2-inch tape on upside down in the studio and pushed a few faders up, and it had been their cover of John Cale's Gun playing backwards.
Right.
So that's where all those backwards horns of and all those sucking kind of things. So that and Sue was like, "Oh, give me a recording of that." So that that was it. But then in production, then it was just like, "Oh, well, we're making an album. We better do it properly and learn it up and arrange it." And we made a version of it. Somewhere I've probably got a tape of it, but I haven't heard it for at least 20 years. But literally the last day in the studio, the tracking session before the mixing started, I got a phone and a phone call at home, and it's just like, "Hi, it's Siouxsie here. It's like, I just want to let you know that I've told everyone that we're not using that version of Peekaboo because I just think it's totally overblown, and so we're going to record a new version of it today, and whoever doesn't turn up is not going to be on the single." So we literally just turned up, had new parts, completely new, had to come up with new parts and just throw it down really quick. I guess, because it really had that kind of just artier, minimalist kind of thing going on about it.
Yes.
But the label didn't hear it. They told her it was commercial suicide.
Right.
And that was the biggest hit that they'd ever had. Like, part of what I think the three that they had was that, Dear Prudence, and Hong Kong Garden.
Yes. God, that's amazing. And were you also in the band when they did the Iggy Pop track, The Passenger, as well?
No, that was the album before. That
right.
was Through the Looking Glass. That was the second. John Carruthers did 2 albums. That was the second one that he did.
And did you? I mean, after being in, your first, Specimen, was touring a lot more luxurious at this stage?
Yes, oh, definitely. Yeah, with a Specimen in the Batcave, it was proper Norman Bates hotels and splitter buses, whereas the Banshees was a couple of trucks, 40-foot buses, and which were, that side of it was. Except the only downside about that sometimes is you end up at Four Seasons hotels half an hour outside town, and it costs a week's wages to get room service.
Right. Yes, it could be. I guess swings and roundabouts at that stage.
Yeah, it depended where you were, but it was really interesting touring with them because they had, unfortunately, 3 managers when I worked with them. But the first one, live music had been his bread and butter. So if he was promoting or and being an agent and stuff. So he was the guy that took him down to the Falklands and stuff and really set amazing stuff up. I think one of our gigs, we went to Slovenia when it was just a week or so after it had been a war zone on the beginning of a tour with 2 Arctic trucks. We went into Greece really early where it was like a third world rock and roll zone, and into Prague. Prague, insane. Was that 87 or 88? We went into Prague. I mean, and I've been there. I went back there in the mid-90s, and there's already like another 0 on the prices. But at this point, Prague really felt like it had just come out from under the Iron Curtain.
Right.
Playing this beautiful Art Deco ballroom, and it was rammed full of people that, lots of people crying because they never thought they'd see Sue in their lifetime. But, they didn't sell 1 T-shirt because it was a month's wages. It was really kind of, so gigging, there were often a few really interesting kind of things. Although we went around the US quite a lot, obviously, and even we did the first Lollapalooza tour, which was a rock and roller coaster.
Yes, I would imagine. Because actually, a lot of the indie bands I've interviewed, they often, that point, like I mentioned earlier, about the 5 years, and they often, one of the things was like they'd often say, and we went to America and then we broke up, because it just kind of finished them off as a band. They'd been doing the circuit, the around Britain in the transit, they'd done possibly Europe, and then the American tour just most people just really hated doing America because it just was so much driving, going to a radio station, having a 2-minute interview, then going off and driving another 8 hours.
I think I got lucky. I mean, the Sex Pistols lasted 12 days, didn't they? Their entire career in America. But for me, with Specimen, we never did. Well, actually, no. I mean, the main tour that we did in a splitter bus, it was really funny. It was so anarchic, actually. It was hilarious. But I guess it wasn't so relentless, and we seemed to attract so many nutters that it was just always really interesting. It was just like, oh my God, when I kind of go back and look at the stories of things that happened on a daily basis in America, it was just, we attracted weirdos, with Specimen in the Batcave. Oh my God, it was really bonkers. And then with the Banshees, it was, a lot more civilized in terms of your kind of routine. But they attracted interesting people also.
Yes. Well, did you get many people who were into Aleister Crowley and those types who were getting into the dark arts or whatever they call them?
I didn't have too much problem with it. With them, I had someone wrote me a letter in blood once.
Right.
And and this other guy that hustled me outside the venue, told me he had brain cancer and like a few months to live, and could he meet Siouxsie, and blah, gave me all these really convincing stories. So I did arrange that meeting, and all was very nice. And then, like a year later, you're going through town, and there he is, looking perfectly healthy.
Excellent. I know. Thinking he should be in theatre.
Not that I'd wish him badly, but it's just like, oh yeah, I got kind of had, probably.
But you do the right thing, don't you? Just in case.
Yeah.
Did you always feel? I remember Stevie Nicks with Fleetwood Mac always felt that even though they'd been in the band and written some of the best songs for the band, she always felt like she was still sort of, not quite part of the, John McVie and Mick Fleetwood kind of the really inner core. Did you often feel like that?
Oh yeah, not very much. I mean, the company Siouxsie and the Banshees was Sue, Budgie, and Severin at that point. So me and McCarrick were effectively session musicians.
Yes.
On the album covers, we were band members.
Yeah.
But in terms of the business, I mean, their business had been going, 10 years before we turned up. So,
That was fair enough. What was the atmosphere like then going into the second album you made with Superstition?
Yeah, very different. Very different. Well, I mean, technology had really kind of happened. The first album we made with Mike Hedges, who'd done them before, done The Cure, and he was an ex-Abbey Road engineer, and that big crazy old Viking that used to look. He was just really funny presence. Just pranks and all kinds. And then we got put into the studio with Stephen Hague, who very much had a reputation for being a pop producer at the time. So Stephen Hague would have been, Pet Shop Boys, Jimmy Somerville, like number one hits. But actually, interestingly enough, I think he was mixing Perubu at the same time he was working on Superstition.
Right.
But also, between Peepshow and Superstition, computers had happened. So Steve had bought an Atari, and an Akai. So there was a whole lot of programming going on in the room. So it was like when we first went into production rehearsals for the producer turned up, it was like there were two bands playing in the room. So that was very different. And then when Stephen Hague came in, all of a sudden you've got two 24-track machines locked together, and it's pre-Pro Tools. It was Sound Tools. So you just had the computer just running one stereo pair of audio, so you could bounce off the tape machine onto that edit and then put back. But he also had another computer that was running all the MIDI sample players. So he had this insane, huge library. So I know Martin, the keyboard player, was finding it difficult because Steve wouldn't record his sounds. Right. He just recorded the MIDI data, which he could change the notes later, and he can change the sounds. Yeah. Also, for Budgie, he's got this shit-kicking groove happening that he's got to play along to, and he'd never been in that situation before.
No.
So I think it took a while for him to kind of find his feet in that, Whereas Budgie normally he's like bam straight, he knows, what, But yeah, that was a very different kind of production process. For me, it was actually kind of easier because I love improvising. The time in between those albums, I've been doing a lot of songwriting and programming at home. I was used to playing a computer, so
Yes. Did you ever do any residential sort of recording with the band, like not at Rockfields, but anything kind of like the equivalent of Rockfields that they've?
No, we used to do residential rehearsing. We used to do for tours and for writing. So before Peepshow, what was that little town, Ardingly? So near Haywards Heath, some big old Tudor house. So we were literally in the dining room with a parquet floor, was kind of like where our setup was. And then where else would we have done that's residential? Oh, the only other residential, when we did a track for the second Batman movie, we worked in Peter Gabriel's studio
Like real world. Okay.
But we didn't work. The main studio downstairs was booked because they had New Order in there. So you got one of the poshest looking studios in the world, but it stank like a brewery. So they had all these kegs of ale in there. But we were up. Peter had on the top floor of the Mill House. He had a personal studio, which was really interesting. You walk through the door, and there were like 150 rolls of 2-inch tape, all stacked up against the wall. That was the current album he was working on.
Blimey.
Then, big console, and then like a synthesizer museum in the middle. I mean, it was amazing. Like his first ever Fairlight was in there, and along with other stuff. And then around the outside of the room was all African instruments. So it was a real vibey space, actually.
God, I could imagine. Yes, because the whole sort of, I know it's a funny old term, the real, world music was becoming very popular at that stage, wasn't it? With Warren Madden and people like that. Yeah. Did you, I mean, at that stage, being a sort of artist, there was like, obviously, you mentioned acid jazz, acid house as well as acid jazz. Yes, but there was also the kind of grunge period had started as well, wasn't it? And sort of like, a new sound coming from Seattle. Were you sort of picking up on all that kind of other influences happening? People like My Bloody Valentine had come out, I think, at that time with Loveless.
Yeah.
So there was quite a lot of kind of new sort of albums. Were you sort of aware of that
yeah,
happening?
No, definitely. I guess, I would have been aware of that probably going into Superstition, but it hadn't had, I think, what? That would have been around about the time Nirvana were in the press. Yes. But it hadn't made turn the world upside down at that point until we went in for the last album, The Rapture.
Yes, that would have been, you'd have been at the peak of. And what was the tour like for Superstition? Was that a good tour you had?
Well, that was the year we did Lollapalooza.
Yes. And was that a very sort of hedonistic, wild time at that stage?
Yes. Yes. It was bonkers. Oh, my God. Well, it was really odd. I mean, it was a very different tour dynamically because you only had one sound check in 10 weeks. And then, because every stage, the spec was the same every night. So, and of course, there wasn't time. They didn't know the logistics about whether they had enough time to break the show, sometimes drive it across a couple of state lines and get it set up in time for the festival to start. So, but it just meant that, you didn't have the routine of get in the bus, get off the bus, go to the sound check, hang around. It was just turn up in the town and either go to the festival and hang out with the other bands, or just do something else and turn up and do your gig. So yeah, and there were a few party nights on that it did kind of turn into carnage. Yeah.
Right. What other bands were you kind of on tour with at that stage?
Oh my God! Right. So Jane's Addiction were headlining because they set up the tour. Then the Banshees, Living Colour.
Yes.
The 9 Inch Nails.
Right.
Ice-T and Body Count.
Nice.
The Butthole Surfers.
Love them.
And Henry Rollins was opening without a record deal.
God damn.
So at the time. Yeah, it was like I remember someone taking me into the Butthole Surfers dressing room to partake of something or another, because they was right by the stage, and Gibby Haynes walked in and he came in and shook my hand, and then he pointed to a spot like by his thumb and said, "Meet my wart, I'm seeding." He was hilarious. He used to walk on stage and smash a bottle on his head in the first couple of numbers, a Jack Daniels bottle. It was only halfway through the tour that I found out it was a wax prop.
Right. Nice. Well, yes.
Then one night, actually, I think, where was that, in Toronto? Yeah, there were a load of girls screaming at him in the front row. I don't know, they all seem to be taking the piss out of each other, him and the audience. But then, what did he do? He took his socks off and threw them in the audience. This is what couple of weeks into a tour, so all of a sudden there was like 100-foot empty circle. It was like socks on the young ones.
Yes, oh God, yes. Well, that must have been. And how did the rest of the band cope with that? Were you quite worldly wise at that point, or did it get messy for the band as well?
Yeah, well, socially, I think everyone met everyone else and things went down. So I think everyone coped with it kind of slightly different. Yeah, but generally kind of social. There were a couple of mental party nights in hotels. I think I went to a crack party at one.
Right.
I think it was either go to a crack party or an orgy.
No, well, God,
So I
yes.
thought the crack party, and I remember seeing Budgie going to checking out the next day. Wow, I can't remember how much his bill was for the room service. He went white.
Yeah, God, I bet he regrets that now. Yes, blimey. So then when you came to do your the Rapture, did you sort of feel this was going to be the band's last album, studio?
No, not at all. I mean, things were changing with the record label at that time. That I did notice. But I mean, when we went in with it, I mean, I actually started working with them on writing before Martin, because with Superstition and the pop stuff, I guess they were probably started with McCarrick programming bits and hooks and things, whereas with this one, grunge had happened. So I was, look, we want to start making, going a bit more guitar on this one. It didn't go guitar in the same way that grunge did, which is a lot more heavy rock than normally the Banshees would want to go. I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe it could have gone more that way if I'd been more pushy, but I don't know. It just felt like I didn't feel like I went in there with a brief. I mean, we were listening to what records were being made, but there was no talk of doing something like that or like that,
Yes. And what was Jon Klein like to work with?
Oh, brilliant. Oh, really good. I really liked him. He was really funny.
Yes. Because
it was just like he was just more. He was the kind of, when the band had asked him, "Do you want to hear our back catalogue?" and sent it over, he was just like, "No, I just play me the songs."
Right.
He was more like an old school producer, really.
Yes.
And it really it just felt there was no agenda apart from just the music, in a very kind of fundamental sense. He just hears the music and reacts on it and makes it what he thinks the best version of that can be.
That was interesting. Did you record that in two different locations, that album?
Well, it started off being recorded with we started it off as a co-production job with a guy called Charles Gray, who'd really successfully worked on a load of B-sides with the Banshees. But I think he didn't have such an easy time when we went in. Pardon the French. We went into a French residential studio.
Right.
Which was in between. So Sue and Budgie lived in a town called Condom, which has been between Biarritz and Toulouse.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to a studio that was between their place and Biarritz, in the middle of a forest. And so the guy who were co-producing it with it, I think, he was on a bit of a strange vibe. And he'd fallen in love with the singer of the band he was producing that summer. So he wasn't the same guy we'd worked with before. He was definitely on another place. So, but we made some interesting stuff in the residential kind of Shining type location. But then I think when Mark Cates, the A&R from Geffen, turned up, he thought we needed some more. It was probably the old single, wasn't it? You need a single,
right,
or whatever. Yes. That old chestnut. But he did go back to Geffen and find some money because there was we were really Polydor already turning the screw. So he went and found some money, and that's where I can't remember who actually arranged for Cale. But yeah, it was really, really exciting to go in with him.
What, absolutely. Did you then come back to the UK for the Jon Klein sessions?
Yes, yeah. We did those in Wessex, where we did Nevermind the Bollocks and stuff.
Yes.
Islington.
And how long did the recording? How long did you spend in the studio
with Jon?
Yes.
I can't. How many songs is it? Is it 4 or 5? Couple of weeks, maybe, something like that.
Yes. And when the album came out, again, did you kind of go on tour with that one?
No, I didn't. I had a bit of I had a headbutt with the band over publishing, which is a long story, but yeah.
Right.
That I wouldn't commit to that last tour, and it turned out it kind of it got not that pleasant.
So then you sort of walk away. So what do you then do for the remaining part of the 90s? This is the kind of Britpop John Major years, isn't it, at this stage?
Yeah. Well, I really hope that this keeps telling me it's low power. I played with Sinead O'Connor. I toured with her the next. Was it? I think it was the same year they went out with the Rapture. I went out with Sinead O'Connor.
Yes, I wonder if that was the tour I went to see. Did you come to the UEA? Oh, and she did quite a. I did go and see Sinead O'Connor, and that was quite a mellow. It wasn't. It was quite a sensitive. Was it quite a not a low key gig because it was sold out? But was the set list quite low? Not quite mellow.
Quite chilled. Yeah, I mean there were a couple of rocky moments, but more chilled kind of stuff. Yeah.
Because she had just done Universal Mother, hadn't she?
That's right, yes.
I wonder if it was that tour. What was that like, working with or being on tour with Sinead?
It was really interesting. I mean, God, we rehearsed so much that it was a super, super tight band, really quiet on stage. That was the biggest shock. I mean, it was so quiet. I've gone from a wall of amplifiers to one little amp like this size on number 4, 3, or
Yes. And you play Glastonbury as well, don't you, on this?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, really nice. And it was kind of having a woman fronting a band again was really interesting. I think it's good. It just means that there's a certain level of lad humour that can't help but kind of come out on the road, and it's just kind of having a girl in the band definitely kind of it fixes that a little bit.
I would imagine. I remember the guitarist from Jefferson Airplane just said they wanted a woman, Grace Slick, just to stop it or just becoming a bit of a lads or blokes club. And I think that was some good decision because also, trying to make yourself sound different with just another load of blokes can be quite tricky, really. Did you play Lollapalooza again, actually, with Sinead?
Indeed. I think I was the first musician to ever do it twice, yeah.
Yes, God, that'd be an obscure question, wouldn't it?
But we didn't complete it the second time. So I didn't go to any crack parties on the second one.
No. So did you just do the tour with Sinead, and then that was it? You just had a straight contract with her?
She wasn't really doing a huge amount around that time. So, I think the next album she did was quite a while later, and she made it with Dave Stewart and Wycliffe Jean and different producers, whatever. Yes, but it was just the Universal Mother kind of touring season.
Yes, because I think before that she'd worked, but Marco Peroni was on guitar, wasn't he, for quite a
while? Yeah. Well, he's on Universal as well.
Oh, is he? Yeah.
Stuff like Fire on Babylon. If there's a riff, it was Marco.
Marco, what a guitarist! That was amazing. So then, what's your next project in the 90s?
After that, I got more and more into production. After that, actually, I just I started a production company with a young guy. When was that? I don't know, 98 or something like that.
Is this Ground Control?
Yes.
Was it Patrick Bird?
Yes.
That was it. There you go. So what is a production company, by the way?
Well, we just produce records. Yeah, I mean, Pat was a really good mastering engineer that I met. So with his skill set, we were able to also cover restoration work for re-releases of old recordings, or take new bands into the studios. I think
Yes.
a few different weird things like oh God, But I guess when you've got a company, you've just got to take all the work you can find. So yeah, but all sorts of people. We did a few bits with Cubanate, even I seem to remember.
Oh yes, and Dave Devant and the Spirit.
David Devine is Spirit Wife, yes.
Classic, yes. And that's cool. And did you then get another band, Snell?
Yeah, well, that was kind of a hobby band. A friend that I'd started with, a friend of mine, Matthew Seligman. How did I meet Matthew? Oh God, I think I met Matthew at the Batcave first, because he found us a Specimen drummer. But then Matthew went on. He was from the Tom Dolby kind of what was it? Thomas Dolby and Soft Boys and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, he took me out to Thailand to work on some music in a friend's studio, and it's just one of those projects that turned into an album. And then I met some people in Thailand and got us into playing gigs in China at the Millennium. We played at the first Shanghai Carnival.
Nice.
Weird. It was just like I don't know, like playing in Times Square to thousands of Chinese people doing "Fight for the Right to Party." Actually, I did learn to sing one song in Mandarin Chinese as well.
Good. That's very good. And then Dr. Penguin's Magic Circus.
He was the guy that took us into China. So that's how that happened, through him. I met him in Thailand. He lived up the road from a friend's studio. And he used to do like kind of cable TV show, travel shows. And he had this kind of chaotic kind of, I don't know. I just thought it was this shambolic, almost Captain Beefheart does a circus. It was really odd. I think we had was he a Mexican-American guitar player guy who was he a draft dodger? I can't remember which stories are true, which ones were made up for the press releases. But yeah, we just kind of turn up at village squares in Thailand or Laos or Vietnam, whatever, and instead of going we'd be doing kind of surf punk tracks or playing love songs when he does his when Dr. Penguin does his guillotine sketch. And it was really interesting, actually. It was like so wacky. It was because at that point in my life I was a bit like, not regretting, but I was a bit worried. All my adventures are behind me, all those rock and roll.
Yes.
Actually, the circus was more insane. It was really fun. The stuff that happened every day on that was ridiculous. It was so funny.
So then after that, did you go back to art school at some stage?
That's right. Yeah, I went back and I did a fine art and critical theory degree. And I thought I wanted to do like sculpture and 3D work, but I ended up doing like digital media and stuff, because I've always done filmmaking since the first degree that I did in Brighton before the Batcave.
Yes,
I started playing with cameras. So yeah, it had always been on my bucket list to try and do that, just to kind of see where that road, which was quite useful because I think I graduated that. I mean, that worked really well. I got really good grades and stuff and a really good skill set. Graduated in 2007, just whilst YouTube was kicking off. So there was kind of quite a lot of available work.
Right. So
doing arty stuff for businesses or cable TV companies, and I even shot camera and did a few bits for like what kind of NHK Japan. I've done bits for Dolce & Gabbana, and it went in lots of really strange directions. Yeah.
God, that must have been very nice to do, and a nice change as well. God, that's brilliant. And then musically, when you get into the teen period of the decade, well, yes, what do you sort of start playing music again at this stage? When do you meet Jon Wobble?
Well, that was a bit later. First of all, I met Ollie when I was at uni, and we did a 25th Batcave anniversary in 2008. Ollie had become quite not quite, a very successful psychedelic trance artist, doing those big gigs, like everywhere from like Brazil to Tokyo to kind of wherever. So I went out playing with him on quite a lot of those for a fair few years, whilst I was doing filmmaking.
Yes.
So we had the Specimen anniversary season that ran for 2 or 3 years. It was Waves and Gothic in East Germany. Well, not East Germany, in Leipzig. Was East Germany? And then, but I'd also been dragged in to do some teaching around the millennium by a friend of mine at Further Education College. So I did a few years of that I stopped when I went to university. But that was kind of quite an interesting skill set. So Wobble happened. One of the people I was making films for wanted to start a community music project with Wobble in Wimbledon Library.
Right. Was that called Tuned In?
That's indeed. It's still cool. We're still running that. So the initial idea was to run jam nights.
Right.
And it was, I guess, kind of, and for kind of mental health kind of charity thing, which worked really well. But then we hit lockdown, and I started running courses, actually, doing Zoom courses. So we actually put a single out on Cherry Red in lockdown with the vocals and stuff all done on people's mobile phones. That was quite fun. But we also, I designed a studio for them that we built into the library. So I've been doing recording workshops on that. And then Jon got asked to make a metal boxing dub rebuilt.
Right. This is 2021.
So that's the first thing. Yeah, he asked me if I wanted to make that with him, so we could just kind of just make quite a detailed, as opposed to trying to get the band to do it in a weekend. We could just kind of just do a longer burn project making it. And I made a few records with him since. So.
And have you toured with Jar?
Yeah, because he's got his regular Invaders show that's a bit more jazzy and kind of reggae, but then we did organise a metal box show that's got some of his other catalogue in it, but with much more of the stuff that we rebuilt from Metal Box. So with him doing more vocals as well, and just more post-punk, basically.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to work with Tony Visconti at all with your other? Because you've done another a project, isn't it? Was it called Miko and the?
Oh yeah. Now that was a project that Miko was involved in called Spammed. So it was like, oh God, who was in that band?
Was that Neil Innes?
He was, yeah. He was on the first. I did 2 sessions with them. So he was on the first one, was doing a T-Rex cover with Visconti producing. So that was Rat Scabies on drums, Horace from the Specials on bass, Kevin Eldon, the actor, singing, Miko on rhythm guitar, and the late great Neil Innes on keyboards.
And was Terry Edwards part of that?
And Terry, oh God, how could I remember? Sorry, Terry. Yeah, I think Terry it was Terry that got Tony involved, I'm sure.
Did you get a chance to meet Tony?
Yeah, well, he produced a session.
Right.
We did. So a friend of mine got us some time at Rack Studios, which is like Mickey Most's old place on Regent's, just off Regent's Park.
Yeah.
And we went in there and put down Get It On, I think. Bang It On.
Bang It On. God,
whichever title. It got released as both eventually, didn't it? At different times.
Probably, yes. Probably, yeah.
Good. But I did a second one of those sessions that we did with Nick Lowe that was also very interesting.
My God, you've worked with some amazing producers.
Oh, Nick Lowe was great to work with. I really enjoyed him. He reminded me a bit of Kale.
Yes.
Really straightforward. Something that I really, yeah.
Absolutely. And what's your next project coming up at the moment?
Well, I've got an album that I've just made with Wobble that's coming out in October, possibly on Dimple Discs.
Oh, Dimple Disc. Oh, that's the guys from the Undertones.
Sorry, from
the Undertones, and that Dimple Disc, is that one of the members from the Undertones? It's label.
I don't know, Brian. I know it's an Irish connection. Yeah,
who was also in
Records is another one of that, isn't it?
So that's coming out on Dimple Disc.
Yeah, and it's going to be called Automated Paradise.
Brilliant. And when did that get recorded and written?
It's weird, almost like a downtime session. That me and Wobble have been we've been kind of working on certain other collaborations and stuff. So we just made a few other tracks without a purpose. So he said, well, hang on, we've got 3 or 4 tracks. We should do an EP. And actually, I dug out some others that I started for collaborations that hadn't happened. And so it's like, oh my God, yeah, how many tracks is it, Alan? I can tell you.
Yes.
I should know this off by heart, shouldn't I? It's coming out.
Yes, well,
that was 8 tracks we got for that one. Yeah.
Right, my God, that's fantastic. And any more live dates this year coming out?
This year, well, for the metal box stuff, I think I'm not much in the UK. I think, when is that? Just looking at the story. I've got one in Birmingham. Where's that? 9th of November. We're doing a festival in Belgium on the 14th of November, and then we're out to Ireland at the beginning of December.
Fantastic.
It's been quite quiet on that front.
Yes, but recording-wise, there you go. Oh. And then after this album with Wobble, have you got any other things on the pipeline, either recording or producing or exhibitions?
Yeah, well, music-wise, I'm not really sure. It's funny, I saw Youth today, and he said, "It's not about time you did your solo album." So I don't know, maybe I won't think about that. But I do art shows with a couple of sculptors that I met on my degree. So we've exhibit quite a lot. They're installation pieces that then house things that have got video projections inside models.
Right.
So it's called DMK. It's Davis, Monaghan and Klein. So we've got quite a lot of shows on our CV, actually. Yeah,
yes. And where can you find information about your exhibitions?
Where are they?
Yes, where are they?
Let me have a look.
Yes, I thought it was curious because there's one on your Facebook page with Alan McDonald, but is that yours? Or is that somebody else's that's just advertised on your page?
I don't know. That was just a show that you got put up there. Is there any?
Do you have a website, or is it on your Facebook page?
I'm really rubbish at this stuff. I just there's some stuff at various places online. If you just Google Davis, Monaghan and Klein, so Davis IES, Monaghan MONAGHAN, and Klein KLEIN, like the underpants.
Yes. Cool. Okay. Let's do that. I'll have to find out. So you've got quite a few exhibitions coming up.
Yeah. I normally kind of keep busy. I mean, it's nice. I love collaborations, anyways, because it's a different kind of energy, isn't it? It's really that's what I like about bands. Actually, it's good not always being able to get your way.
Yes, I know. It's all good.
Chemistry.
I know. And did Ollie pass away? Is Ollie with us still, or did he?
No, he passed away. When was that? It was that 2002, and yeah, yeah. So, I mean, he'd been dealing with a health condition that should have come and got him way before it did. So very sad, but yeah.
My God, that's horrible, isn't it? Really. But anyway, yes, a bit of a legend, really, wasn't he?
Oh, no, absolute legend, and but a lifelong spliff smoker. They buried him in North London Cemetery on a road called Joint Road.
Right.
Would certainly be smiling.
Yes. Oh, it's always a bit hard though, isn't it? But yeah. Well, look, Jon, thank you ever so much for your time. Sorry that, yes, we got there in the end, which is fantastic. An amazing story. I'll have to, yes, have a look more. I guess there's lots of Mick Mercer pictures of the Batcave, aren't there?
Yes. Yeah. Well, he kind of, one of the girls on our team, Linda Rao, bought a camera at the time because she realised no one was photographing stuff. There's very little photos of the first venue, apart from Derek Ridges, who was there with the face.
Oh, Derek Ridges, yes, he's the other one, isn't he?
Yeah, but then and then in the box set, I think there's about a dozen of his photos of the Mud Wrestlers, or me and Ollie hanging outside with Ollie's pet rat. But then when we moved to the second venue in Leicester Square, Linda got a camera, and she was living a flatmate with Johnny Slut at the time, and just a very talented lady. She really good at making clothes and just doing stuff. And she built a dark room in their flat and started taking photographs. I think Mick Mercer bought her catalogue from her, so she pretty much documented that whole scene.
Oh, right.
Onwards.
So it would be Mick Mercer who's got those pictures.
He's got the copyright, yeah, but the photographer is Linda Rao.
Right.
So yeah, I'm sure he credits her. He's pretty good. He let us use a lot of those pictures for the book as well. So he's a good guy.
What was the title of the book?
The book was with the box set.
Right. There you go.
So sadly, we had to sign a deal to let them have that exclusively for the run of that. So it was just like 100-page kind of hardback book, which is it was nice though, actually, doing it that way, because it meant we had no editorial intrusions. We were just allowed to just put it out. Basically, it must have been about 30 or 40 interviews. I just kind of went through and just chopped and kind of thread it all into the narrative of just those who were their story,
And when you've heard there was 3 books in 1 year, wasn't it? Cathy Unsworth, John Robb, and the guy from The Cure.
Lowell, yeah.
Lowell. So which book would you recommend as and there was another book that came out called And Some More something, sort of more of a photographic book of goth scenes. So
right. I read Cathy's book's very good. She's a very good writer. I want to read Lowell's next. I haven't read John Robb's.
Yes. Have you been quite interested or impressed how goths, because at the time, it was kind of, again, being tribal, it sometimes got put to one side, but now people have embraced it for what it is. Have you been quite intrigued in the last 5 years how much people have embraced the black side of life?
It is really interesting. Well, particularly because, this kind of, what's it called? The extreme glamour scene.
Yes.
The kids with all the prosthetics and all the weirdness. And a lot of those kids really see Johnny Slut, our keyboard player with a massive mohawk, as like a godfather of their scene. So the Batcave is really on their radar.
Yes.
As pre that scene, which is amazing. So we've been kind of doing a couple of little semi collaboration rooms with what's it called, the Monster Queen Club in London, which is that kind of scene.
Yes.
So there is like a direct kind of link now from the Batcave to that, which is odd. I mean, I was already kind of intrigued. Well, it was that 2010. I was asked to help with a book that was being written by the director at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, so Dr. Valerie Steele. And it was quite a technical book she was writing about catwalk and high street fashion that year and its roots. And she was drawing direct roots from 2010 to 1983 at the Batcave, which is, and so that's quite a big tome. What's it called? Gothic Dark Glamour is the name of that book. And for the launch of the book, they had a big, a few-day conference in New York, and there was a big exhibition in the Institute's gallery.
Yes.
They really liked a picture of me. One of the pictures that I sent them for their book was a picture where I had my pigeon shit suit on. One of my Specimen outfits was I bought a suit jacket from Brixton Flea Market and then just painted pigeon shit on it. and then made a kind of clowny rough shirt with a businessman's white shirt and painted it with liquid eyeliner. So I think they liked the kind of humour of that and asked if I still have it. And I found it in my loft. So I FedExed it to New York and they put it next to kind of, oh Jesus, like McQueen and Galliano and just all the big names.
And your fantastic suit was there.
My pigeon shit, smelly old suit.
Brilliant. Well,
that was kind of, that was a real shock though, just to realise how seriously they were kind of, taking that connection and that context.
Yes.
I mean, we never, we just opened the club so we had somewhere to play and where our mates could play. It was never, ever about trying to create anything that would kind of live and have a legacy.
I know, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because there was a book by, what's her name? I don't know. Oh, Lee Bowery. Yes, Sue Tilley did a book on Lee Bowery, didn't they? Everybody's got very excited with digging up these kind of interesting characters and scenes and clubs and, fashion. So it's everything's got very documented now, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, the Bowery show was closing at the Tate probably this week, in fact. It's really good.
Yes. So it's just been good. And then the
really well curated. I was really shocked.
Yes.
There's lots of amazing video in it as well. Of course, there's the stuff with Michael Clarke and The Fall. And, I think I've been to it half a dozen times.
Nice. And then the V&A have got David Bowie's archive, which will be...
Yes.
Which we're all very excited about.
Oh, that was amazing. Well, my partner got me a V&A membership for my birthday the year of the show. So I went there quite a few times.
I would imagine, yes. Well, I think next month is his archive is going to be opened. It won't be the full-on exhibition. Apparently they've got a few little displays, but you can go and ask to see things.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, the lyrics I loved.
We love the lyric sheets.
I mean, what was it? Oh God. I wish I could remember what it was. Well, because I used to go in there because there was such a queue, you couldn't always see the lyrics. That one of the things that every time I went trying to see more lyric sheets. In 5 years, I can't remember what it was. Electric irons and TVs wasn't in the lyric in the first draft. Something was crossed out. It was just that. What gave him that thought? What? I want to put an electric iron in that line. and the other big one I remembered was the lyrics for Fashion. And it was just like, A4 page, loads of lyrics. And they were they weren't good Bowie lyrics, they're a bit earnest.
Yes.
And then over 3/4 of them were crossed out. And it was just like amazing to see, wow, even Bowie at that point of creation, doesn't get it right, but spots it,
Yeah, his famous cut-ups.
Oh God, but that was just a gone, scribble out.
Yeah, it is quite brilliant. But anyway, yes, we'll be going to the V&A to see these bits again, I'm sure. So
Excellent.
I know. Anyway, look, thank you ever so much for your time, John.
Okay.
And I really appreciate it. If you want, I can always send you the link, and you can always use it elsewhere if you want. But anyway,
Please do. Yeah, that'll be really good.
Very grateful for your time. Anyway, look, have a lovely evening or night.
If you get any questions about anything, though, when you're going through it, give me a shout.
I will. Okay, But look, take care and have a lovely weekend.
Brilliant. Where are you based, by the way?
Norwich.
Right. Oh, well, if ever down in London, give me a shout.
I will. Yeah. That'll be nice. Okay.
If
See you later.
To V&A, maybe.
Let's do that. I know. Well, that's on my radar in September, October. The tickets aren't available quite yet. They said soon. But if you go to put in David Bowie V&A, you'll see the website and it's all there waiting, but they haven't released the tickets. So I don't know the process at the moment, but it's going to be a must, isn't it?
It's great, though. I'm really happy to hear that's happening. So,
Well, I think it must be really handy for the estate saying, well, what are we going to do all this stuff? And the V&A said, we'll take it. And they thought, oh, thank God.
Yeah, well, that show set a new standard for shows, really. And it's still the best one in that genre. But I've got to say, actually, Lee Barry, I was really impressed. That's the first one. So I saw the Stones show at the Siouxsie, and it was just a bit like, there were a couple of good bits in it, but it was just like, it just didn't have the punch of Bowie's. Or there's some emotional attachment about Bowie's where,
I think when we walked around and then we've ended up in the main room where there was like full big screens and there was that Alec... his suit that he had on that was it outside, the rap one that he did, the Union Jack suit was there.
Oh yeah, he's Alexander McQueen.
And clips of him at Glastonbury in 2000. It was really emotional. But they also did another brilliant exhibition called So Now You Want a Revolution or something like that. And that was all about the 60s counterculture. And I think they just did that brilliantly as well. And though I'm not a huge fan, apparently the Pink Floyd exhibition they had there was good. But
right. They don't muck around, do they?
No, they do the business. So, yeah. Anyway, look, thank you again for your time. See you later. Take care.
Yeah, I'm sorry it took so many attempts, but
we got there.
Hit me a link when you're ready.
I will. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. And that, dear listener, is the end of the interview. A massive thank you to John for giving me the time. This has been the C86 Show. David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on all the social media platform sites. Just do C86 Show. All these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. It's true. Have a great week. Stay safe.